Welcome to ADP for Learning. I am Ashish Kutyal. Today we will learn about a new topic regarding types of proteins. We will cover the different types of proteins available, their unique characteristics, and the best sources for obtaining them. So, don't wait any longer. Hit the like button now and share the video with your friends so that they also can join us on this exciting journey of learning. In general, there are 9 major categories of proteins, namely enzymes, structural proteins, signaling proteins, regulatory proteins, transport proteins, sensory proteins, motor proteins, defense proteins, and storage proteins. We will cover each protein one by one. First, we start with enzymes. Enzymes build and break down molecules. They are critical for growth, digestion, and many other processes in the cell. Without enzymes, chemical reactions would happen too slowly to sustain life. The common examples of enzymes are lactase. Lactase helps infants digest lactose, a sugar in their mother's milk. Luciferase. Luciferase makes fireflies glow. It controls a chemical reaction that gives off light. You can check the detailed video on luciferase enzyme in my previous YouTube video of how a firefly's tail makes light, that is bioluminescence. DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase builds DNA molecules. It reads the old DNA strand and inserts the correct nucleotides into the new strand. The second type of protein is structural protein. These types of proteins strengthen the cells, tissues, organs, and more. Nature can build materials by using these proteins that are very strong. The common examples of structural proteins are major amylase speedrun protein or MASP. MASP makes up the black widow spider web. Collagen. Collagen strengthens our bones, cartilage, tendons, ligaments, and skin. It makes up about a quarter of the body's total protein. Tubulin. Tubulin forms hollow tubes, called microtubules, that support the structure of the cell. Fibroin. Fibroin is used by silkworms to build cocoons. People turn these cocoons into silk fabric. The third type of protein is signaling protein. Signaling proteins allow cells to communicate with each other. Signals, receptors, and relay proteins work together to get information from the outside of a cell to the inside. The common examples of signaling proteins are adrenergic receptors. The adrenergic receptor is activated by a non-protein hormone in times of stress. It signals heart cells to beat faster and liver cells to release glucose, giving muscles a burst of energy. Insulin. Insulin is released into the bloodstream after a meal. It activates the insulin receptor, which signals muscle and fat cells to store blood sugar. Epidermal growth factor or EGF. EGF is released at a wound site. It activates the EGF receptor, which signals skin cells to grow and divide during wound healing. The fourth type of protein is regulatory protein. Regulatory proteins bind DNA to turn genes on and off. Active genes are used to build regulatory proteins. The common examples of regulatory proteins are p53 protein. The p53 protein prevents a cell from dividing when its DNA is damaged. It prompts the cell to repair the damage or self-destruct. HOX proteins. During development, HOX proteins tell a group of cells what organ to become. When a HOX protein is in the wrong place, some interesting things can happen. Androgen and estrogen receptors. Androgen and estrogen receptors control genes that trigger the onset of puberty in males and females, respectively. The fifth type of protein is transport protein. Transport proteins move molecules and nutrients around the body and in and out of cells. Examples of transport proteins are hemoglobin. Hemoglobin in red blood cells picks up oxygen from the lungs and delivers it to all the tissues in the body. Cytochrome C. Cytochrome C proteins in mitochondria move electrons from one protein complex to another, generating energy to power the cell. Channels. Channels in cell membranes help ions cross the membrane. This action allows heart cells to beat and nerve cells to fire. The sixth type of protein is sensory protein. Sensory proteins help us learn about our environment. They help us detect light, sound, touch, smell, taste, pain, and heat. Some organisms can even detect electricity or magnetism. The most common examples of sensory proteins are opsins. Opsins in the eye detect light. They convert light into electrical and chemical signals that can be interpreted by the brain. Olfactory receptors. Olfactory receptors in the nose sense airborne chemicals. A sense of smell helps animals locate food, predators, or a mate. Hundreds of receptors work in combination to detect a nearly infinite variety of smells. Cryptochrome proteins. Cryptochrome proteins in monarch butterflies sense the Earth's magnetic field. This sense guides butterflies during their fall migration. TRPA1 protein. The TRPA1 protein in a rattlesnake's pit organ senses body heat. This sense helps the snake locate its prey. The seventh type of protein is motor protein. Motor proteins keep cells moving and changing shape. They also transport components around inside cells. The common examples of motor proteins are myosin. To contract muscle cells, millions of tiny myosin motors simultaneously slide along chains of actin proteins. Dynein and kinesin. Dynein and kinesin carry vesicles and other cargo around the cell. They walk along tiny microtubule highways. Cellular motor. In bacteria, a cellular motor attaches to a long, rope-like flagellum. When the motor spins, the flagellum waves, propelling the bacterium forward. The eighth type of protein is defense protein. Defense proteins help organisms fight infection, heal damaged tissue, and evade predators. The common examples of defense proteins are antibodies. Antibodies battle the bacteria and viruses that make us sick. They attach to invading microbes, marking them for destruction. Fibrin. Fibrin proteins form blood clots and scabs at a wound site. Fibrin is a sticky, rope-like protein that plugs a wound and stops the bleeding. Threonine deaminase. Threonine deaminase is made by the tomato plant to scare off leaf-eating caterpillars. Threonine deaminase makes the caterpillar sick by disrupting its digestion. Finally, the ninth protein is storage protein. Storage proteins store nutrients and energy-rich molecules for later use. The common examples of storage proteins are casein, which is a storage protein in the milk of mammals. It supplies the nutrients that babies need to grow. Ovalbumin, which is the main storage protein in egg whites. It provides an energy source to the growing bird embryo. Gluten, which is a storage protein in the seeds of wheat, barley, and rye. This food gives the seedling a fast start. Thank you for listening and exploring different types of proteins with examples. In the future, we will come up with more interactive topics. Meanwhile, don't forget to like, share, and comment.